we put the sample back. I'll just put the meter more or less in the door.
All right.
And bird poo. Seems to be about black background. So I'll definitely grow my tomatoes in bird poo.
Yeah, I'll grow everything in this one. Go back to the other one.
And now we have good old Miracle Grow. And we have, just put it right in there.
Maybe put it on the box, because you put it
Well,
in the door of the...
actually this, Paul and I looked at that. You actually get more. We'll do that. But so you see, we're up to, you know, it wings. Whoop, there we go, up to 105, 116, 112. Yeah, but it was also down at 60, 128, 130, 142, 43. These are not statistically significant results, however. I mean, we're not doing it in a. This is totally.
Kind of an indication.
It's telling you, yep, definitely. I would say probably a twofold difference, anywhere between twofold and threefold, which agrees with what you've seen previously.
So, I mean, the real message here is there are things that can be done to reduce the radioactivity level, and organics is definitely a step in the right direction, and eventually we could get it down to just background levels, and eventually we'll also measure the alpha levels.
Is that right?
I suppose theoretically that would be correct.
And it stands to reason to do this.
This is a health hazard. That I just don't know. We'd have to talk to. You know who would help with this? Is Atomic Energy Canada. They are the people who make the regulations about the number of millirems we're exposed to, and I think this would be a very good opportunity to write them a letter and say, look, we had a handheld Geiger counter. It measured what we thought to be background, you know, accepted background, like in this lab, accepted background is about 60 CPM, 60 and below. And then we put it to a small sample of this chemical fertilizer, and it doubled. What does that mean? The people who would be able to give you an authoritative answer on that would be the Atomic Energy Commission, or a more local source would be Mr. Craig Smith at UBC, who is the Radiation Protection Officer, and he actually would be probably, and he's very helpful, I know him, he's a good guy. He would be able to provide, I think, some really good opinions on what these kinds of observations mean. My own gut feelings is that if you smoke a lot, don't worry about the radiation. In fact, that's one of my excuses around the lab for doing as much work as I do. I don't worry too much about the radiation because I smoke.
Well, I mean, if it was organic, you might last a little longer, and you're a good guy, and I'd like to see you around.
Organic, to me, the main thing about organic is pesticides. And I eat organic and want to continue eating organic, if only to vote with my wallet, to make other people grow organic. And my main concern there is pesticides and what you might call agro industry. What do they call it? Agro biz, and just that whole approach.
Yeah, well, we want the soil around for future generations.
No, it's the single biggest. What, we lose 1/4 of an inch a year? I think some figure like that. It's rather terrifying, and it's the main argument for reforestation. Yes, and that's the main argument for genetically modifying all our crops so that we can grow 10 times more in a smaller pace of ground so that we don't lose so much bloody dirt. But then maybe some of your listeners will not like that kind of.
Well, I don't like it. I think that's silly. What we should do is...
breeding, whatever, be it genetically modified or improved breeds. And the classic example is corn, wheat, or rice. And we now produce, with no genetic modification or GM or anything like that, we produce 10 to 20 times more rice per square plot of land than we did 100 years ago. Now, mind you, that may be because we're using this stuff. And in fact, you have to use fertilizer to do that, I think. Though I'm no...
if you look at what we had a high phosphate organic.
Key thing is how much phosphate is in all three of these. It may just be that there is so little phosphate in this organic material compared with the chemical fertilizer, that if we could increase the phosphate in here, it might turn out that they're all the same, and that what we're measuring is the natural radiation associated with phosphate. Because if you pull phosphate...
But that is seabird poo you're holding there, and it's very, very high in phosphate, so it's probably...
We don't know, though. You see, here we know that for X number of grams, I mean, it says it on here somewhere, you're getting available phosphate is 52%. So that is one hell of a lot of phosphate.
I know, but you can actually observe the effects of that seabird poo on my plants by they grow really good, and that seabird poo is notoriously known because of it's all these fish that the birds are eating, and then the fish are high in phosphates. That this is world renowned as the best organic source of phosphates.
Is a good fertilizer, but in terms of measuring radioactivity, what my point is that it's X amount of radioactivity over a certain amount of phosphate, and that really what one would do is normalize the amount of phosphate in these samples and then measure the radioactivity. And I think what we might be seeing is, like, radioactivity is everywhere in nature. It's everywhere. Everything has a certain amount of radioactivity associated with it, and maybe what we're seeing here is the natural levels of P32 and P33 that are found in any phosphate. But then if it has a half-life of 2 weeks, it should all be gone before we see it in the stores. So I don't know what I may not be making any sense. Well, maybe what we're measuring is other things. Lead. It could be polonium or lead. And,
Well, this is definitely an area for further study, and we're just at the beginnings of it now. And thank you for taking a little look-see with us, Dr. Craig.
It was a pleasure, David. Nice meeting you too.
Yeah, and thank you, Dr. Paul, for hooking us up here.
My pleasure too, David. Dr. Craig and Dr. Paul.
Yeah, Dr. Craig and Dr. Paul, and Dr. Paul, if our viewers out there are interested in perhaps finding some funding for a more detailed study, more serious study on this issue, how would they contact you?
I can be reached at area code 604-277-7103. That's the business number of Hedron Analytical Inc. Also, my email address is paulh@istar.ca. So contact me by either of those means, and I'll be happy to talk to you.
Right on. Well, again, thank you for your help, and thanks for helping out with the Compassion Club, and doing good work there, too.
Thanks, David.
Where is this going?
Dr. Craig, this is going to be on Pot TV. Yeah, we got to teach...
Yeah.
On the road again. Nearly 700,000 Americans were arrested on marijuana charges last year. That's an enormous waste of law enforcement resources and terribly unfair to those arrested and their families. It's time we stopped arresting adults who smoke marijuana responsibly. For more information, visit NORML's website at www.normal.org or call toll-free